Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to be continuing on with our epic Waterloo Project updates. In these updates, these are basically project progress updates. Also there to let you know like what my thought process is, you know, the progress that I'm making in terrain building or miniature painting, basically all the ins and outs of what's going on in my project. All right, so in this project we are doing Waterloo, or at least I'm starting off with Quatra first, and then progressing on to Waterloo. But right now, if you've been watching any of my previous 28mm Waterloo Project updates, you pretty much would understand what I'm going through. But I've decided to switch from the 28mm scale. I'm going to be switching to this new Warlord epic scale, and by doing that it's a little bit under 15mm, but by doing that what that's going to do is give me a bigger playing field on my table, where I'm going to be able to double the size of my playing field without having to double the table size. All right. Okay, that's the reason why I switched. Also, I think it will be faster to paint the models, hopefully, and I think it will be less expensive, price-wise, hopefully. Maybe, maybe not, but we're gonna go with it, and we're gonna see what what happens. Now, I have done a price per figure analysis based on the first wave of figures, the starter boxes and the brigade boxes. I've gone through and kind of figured out exactly how much I'm going to need, how many boxes of each type I'm going to need, and the cost of those boxes. And I'm going to go over that with you in just a moment. I have that on my screen here. I'm going to switch this table to that screen so that you'll get a chance to see both of those. But this update's pretty much a long time coming. These are Old Glory 15mm limbers. Okay, they're based on 100mm by 30mm, 30 by 100 bases, and I have both British and French limbers. I have 6 of each. I will probably need, well, I will definitely need a few more. I'll need a couple of Dutch Belgians, and I'll need a couple of Brunswickers as well. Actually, I'm just looking at the screen there. Yeah, like 2 of each of those. We'll get into that when I get into that. I've ordered some models from Minifigs. Minifigs is a company that I used to have. Okay, let me kind of just step back a second and say I got started in Napoleonics using 15mm. I did Napoleons battles for a number of years. I consider myself an expert at Napoleons battles and professional player. I went to many conventions, won many games with Napoleons battles. But there's just something about Napoleon's battles. I loved it. I still love it. But there's just something about it that there's a level of disconnect with Napoleon's battles for me. It's like 3 levels of disconnect, and I can only suffer 2 levels of disconnect. And I'll have to go over what that means in a different video. But I didn't like being a commander, or someone pushing miniatures around on the table where the bases that I was moving around were battalions. If the bases were companies or smaller, I would dig that. But because they were battalion bases, 4 figures on a base, and that represented a battalion, it just didn't feel right? And my brigades were like 6 of those bases would be considered a brigade, and what would normally be included in a brigade could be a mixture of different types of troops and things like that, and it could not be represented by just those 6 bases. And the values of their strength and their either in their melee or their shooting was represented by extrapolation or whatever. They basically had to adjust those attack and defense numbers based on what they thought was in that brigade. And that made the game a little less. That's where the 3rd level of disconnect was. I want to understand why each unit does what it does. And I found black powder. When I found black powder, it turned it turned a light bulb on in my head that I could play Napoleonics at the battalion level instead of at the brigade level, right? And I was like, I tried other games like Empire at the battalion level or Chef de Battalion or whatever, but those games were just too, in my opinion, they were too, I'm not going to say complicated. Maybe they were too complicated for me. Maybe I'm a simpleton, but they had too many fiddly rules, right? Chef de Battalion and especially Empire, I don't want to know exactly how many rounds a soldier is carrying. I don't want to know if he's able to bite his cartridge and fill his musket. I'm not playing a role-playing game. I'm playing a miniature war game, and I didn't. That was just too close to that's the 1st level. That's the 0 level of disconnect, and I didn't want that. So I fell in love with black powder because it reminded me of some really fast ancient games that I had played, like Armadi. And I was like, okay, so black powder it is. And the recommended scale for black powder is 28 millimeters. So I got a bunch of 28 millimeters, played a bunch of games, loved it. Still love it. But the sacrifice is now, because I'm playing in much larger scale figures and the units are much smaller, that I'm getting less on a table. So instead of being able to play all of Waterloo, like with Napoleon's battles, on one table, I could only play a little portion of a battle, like Hougoumont. And that is something that's been eating at me as well, right? The fact that now I'm playing almost a skirmish level game. It's not. It's a grand skirmish game. It's a minor tactical game. It's got the best disconnect, but the largest, but at the wrong scale. So when Epic ACW came out, I thought to myself, oh, wow, okay, so this ACW is black powder, but it's in 15 millimeter, right? Or it's actually in 13.5 millimeter. So, or what do they call that? N scale or 144 scale or something like that, whatever the scale is. And I was like, okay, that's my wheelhouse. Okay, so I could do epic, but I don't want to do ACW. And so a year later, something happened where Warlord announced epic Napoleonics, and I jizzed in my pants. Okay, so I know that I could have rebased, I could have taken some 15 millimeter models. I could have based them on 20 by 20s or 30 by 30s and just played black powder at a smaller scale on a larger table or whatever. I know I could have done that, and I had considered it, but 24 figure battalions just, and at 15 millimeter even, just made the battalions look puny. So I based up a few of those, and then I realized that's not the direction I wanted to go, because it reminded me of Napoleon's battles. I looked at Napoleon's battles, basing and figures, and I looked at the black powder, and it was exactly the same, except for the length of the base, but it was pretty much exactly the same. And that just, I don't know, something in me said I don't want to do that. So, making a short story longer than it needed to be, I've decided to go ahead and scrap my 28 millimeter project. I stopped it. I still have a bunch of 28 millimeter figures that need to be painted and put together and stuff like that. But I will do that, but not for myself. I'm going to do that as part of my store. So the epic Waterloo project, I'm jumping into with 2 feet, right? I'm diving into the deep end. So I ordered a bunch of models. Not only did I pre-order the starter boxes, I ordered quite a few actually, and but I also ordered from Minifig, which was a fig company that I used when I used to play Napoleon's battles, and my memory is telling me that those figures were a little bit smaller than the Old Glory figures that I had gotten back in the day, because I had gotten like Essex and Minifig and Old Glory. I got a bunch of different 15 millimeter brands, but I remember the minifigs were always just a little bit smaller. So I ordered some minifigs, and I also ordered some Old Glory. Not a bunch of Old Glory, but just some Old Glory, just to kind of get me started in the right direction. Okay, and so I got these limbers in. These are all Old Glory, and measuring the figures, I also got some Old Glory, like 95th rifles, and some Old Glory Brunswickers, and I measured them, and they are true 15s, so they are a full 15 millimeters. And my understanding is, based on watching other YouTubers doing their measurements and stuff, that the epics are 13.5. So what is that telling me? Well, that's telling me there's a 1.5 millimeter difference in height. So I'm going to try to compensate for the height using thinner bases, right? These are going to be 0.8 millimeter bases, and then maybe the 13.5 millimeter figures will go on their standard 3 millimeter bases. So the difference would be almost 2 millimeters in difference. So it might be indistinguishable. So we're going to have to experiment once in January when I get the epics in. I'll be able to do like an actual comparison based on the base sizes. Sometimes it's just the figure base too. The figure bases on some figures are just super thick. And I had a friend, he recommended that I take a file and file those down to lower the figure, or snippers or something to lower the figure, because those metal bases on the bottom of the fig sometimes are extra thick. So we'll have to also figure that out as well. So we're going to take a look at all that. But on Wednesday, I did I do my Wargaming Wednesday every morning on Wednesday at 11 a.m. We go for a couple of hours, and I talk about a variety of different things. And in this video, I talked about my limbers. We talked about the flock I was going to use. Okay, and I've decided that I am going to use a static grass called Spring Meadow. It's by a company called Knock. I don't know if you can see that. Knock Spring Meadow. Yeah. That's a model railroading company. It's a very fine static grass. It's not very it's not super fuzzy. This one is just like a warlord, army painter, woodland scenics, static grass. I think it's woodland scenics actually. And you can see, if it was to focus, how heavy. Okay, let's see if we can get this to focus. Yeah, you can see how heavy that grass is, how tall it is and thin it is. That's a pretty cool effect. I like it, but I don't love it. This effect is the static grass that I am going to use. Right? It's still fuzzy. It still has a little bit of that blade of grass look to it, but it's not super heavy fuzz, right? And so that's the one I'm going to use, the Knock Spring Meadow. I tried a bunch of different ones. I compared them. I tried the dark mud, the brown earth. I tried a bunch of different grit pastes or whatever, and I think I'm going to go with this grit paste with this Spring Meadow. And this is the look of my bases. This is what they're going to look like. They're going to have that kind of lighter brown, not light brown, because they do make a light brown. This is the mid brown and the Spring Meadow grass. Now I still need to add a few tufts on here just to see this. I'm using these limbers as my experiment, as my test bed or whatever. I'm going to put some tufts of grass on here to see how that improves or takes away from the look of the model. I'm afraid at 15 millimeter a tuft might be too big, but then again, if I use the really small tufts like the 2 millimeter tufts, I think it should be no problem. I just won't be able to use the big ones, but I use the big ones on my 28 millimeter World War II guys or whatever, so that's fine. So once I get a thing of tufts, I can just take the super small ones and use them on my epic Waterloo guys, and then I can use the big ones on my Ancients or my American War of Independence or any of those guys that are 28 millimeter. Okay, so we did a review of those. Now I've got they come Old Glory. You get them for $20. You get 3 limbers, the horses, and the crews. So that's pretty good. So I went ahead and did that. I also ordered almost all the flags I need from GMB. So I've got, which I guess is a lie, because I still need to order a bunch of Nassau and stuff like that. But I have some Hanoverans, I got the British. I've got a bunch of French flags. And each of these packages comes as the brigade. So like this one right here is 6th Division. But it's one of the 2 brigades. It's 1st Brigade. No, wait. This is 1st Brigade. This is 2nd Brigade. So actually, this is the whole division. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's 5th Division. So you got 1st Brigade, 2nd Brigade. I understand that the Waterloo box, starter box, I believe the regimental box or the brigade boxes are going to have flags as well. But I'm concerned with the quality of those flags, the material of the paper, the clarity of those flags. Plus, their fanions had no writing on them. They're just like white squares or red squares. And so I definitely needed to get some fanions. Now, the issue that I think I might have with those flags, and I think I've discussed all this before, but I just want to get everybody caught up. I know that these flags are 11 millimeters, something like that, and yeah, they're like 11 millimeters, and I'm afraid that the flagpoles might not have 11 millimeters worth of pole. And if that's the case, if I can cut the bottom of the flag and put it on, that's what I used to do with a lot of my 15 millimeter figures anyway, because the 15 millimeters sometimes came with short flagpoles. Or I'm going to snip them, because it's plastic. They're going to be plastic flagpoles, so this is going to be super easy. Snip the flagpoles off, put a little pin vise hole in there through his hand, and slide a metal flagpole, and I'll make sure it's long enough to handle a 15 millimeter flag. Why do I care? Well, because Warlord doesn't make every flag I need, right? They make a lot of them, but they don't make every flag I need, right? Like a lot of the Brunswick flags or Nassau, they don't have any of those, right? Dutch Belgians. So if I have to make units for those, which I will, then I will definitely need to have flagpoles that are going to be long enough for those guys, because I can find them in 15 millimeter. Now, I understand that there's some flag companies out there that are selling 10 millimeter flags or even 12 millimeter flags, but those are going to be too small. And I want to err on the side of larger. I want my flags to be either exact, correct, or bigger. I don't want my flags to be smaller. So the companies that I've found have 15 millimeter flags, and they have all the flags I'm going to need. So I'm going to modify the standards. Right, now before I get into my cost analysis and my figure counting, I also want to touch on something. These are all washed, right? Let's pull out a Napoleonic limber. Okay, these guys, I applied a wash to these guys. I painted them and washed them, and the white still came out really good. The jacket colors are supposed to be this blue-gray looking color for the artillery train. They're not the same as like a gunner. They got these different colored uniforms. And the wash came out really well on these guys. Now, what did I do with these washes? I use a standard Army Painter strong tone. Okay, let's get this focus back. I use strong tone, but I add a flow medium, okay, which is what I normally do anyway. It's the quick shade wash medium, but I'm using the Liquitex version of that, which they call it a flow medium. So I do 50-50 this, but then on top of that, I use what they call a flow aid, a flow aid additive, and I put like, okay, this is the math that I use. I use 20 drops of this, 20 drops of that, and then 5 drops of that. So I get a total of 45 drops, and that works. That percentage, I could shrink it down. You know, I could make it less and less and less. But I wanted this to be 50-50, and then I wanted this to be 25% of that. And it flows really well, and it covers really well. I'm kind of happy with it. The flow aid prevents it from puddling on top of my colors, and then the liquid medium thins it out enough that it doesn't clump up. So it's just really good. I'm very happy with that on 15mm models. Okay, now I've got some guns and stuff. Now my 15mm, I'll probably never need to buy any guns because you get so many guns in the when you buy a unit or when you get one sprue of Epic, you get a gun with that sprue. So every time you get and one sprue is pretty much a unit. So for every infantry unit that I'm putting on the table, I'm also putting a gun on the table and a commander. And that means I'm going to have way too many commanders, way too many guns. I won't really need a bunch of guns. Now the flip side of that is I put these 15mm guns on 30mm wide bases because that's how big the Epic bases are. They're probably just a little bit too big for a 30mm base if I want to also include some figures standing around it. Now, if I take my inspiration from the Epic Waterloo sprues, their figures are as close can be, like they're overlapping the wheels. So if I take my metal guys, paint them up, and then just push them real close to the wheels, they will fit, and it'll just be a tight fit. And I've got a bunch of British guns and howitzers, but I'm still waiting to see if when those minifigs get in, to see if they can, if they're a little bit smaller than my Old Glory. I'm hoping they are. Prices are about the same. Shipping is okay. Pricing is not the same. Old Glory can be cheaper, but you just have to put in a huge order. So I've considered putting in a huge order of Old Glory, and then having those additional packages like these limbers at my store, where you can just buy a pack of limbers on my store, maybe at a discount or something. So look forward to that. Maybe in a month or two, I will stock up on some Old Glory baggies and being 15mm, and I'll sell those. Now I know that this other company called Rank and File, they make limbers and stuff like that, but their limber, you get 3 limbers for $23. I know that's not a huge difference between 20 and 23, but that's basically $1 extra per limber. Their figures might be better. I don't know. They don't have any pictures, so it just has text. So I didn't order any of those. It's the same company. Old Glory also sells rank and file. So, all right. So let me switch the camera. I know this video has been going on quite a long time, but that's okay. Bear with me. This is I've got a lot of information I want to put out, and my Waterloo progress. I'm making progress. I'm doing a lot of the background. I'm doing a lot of the administrative pre-planning, because what do they say? Piss poor planning provides piss poor performance. So if you, or what do they say? Measure twice, cut once. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that I have everything locked down before I make too many commitments. Okay, so let me add this center display. There we go. All right, so you can see my Waterloo Project. Should be able to see the mouse. There it is. And I've got these blue here. Those are the French limbers, and the red are the British limbers that I've already completed. So if it's in blue or red, that's letting you know that those units are finished. And the gold units here, I marked them based on the figures that you get in a starter set. How many units I could actually put together using the 95th Rifles as certain Hanoverian units, or the British line as Guard, or also as Hanoverians, or maybe Dutch Belgians, or just Belgians actually, not the Dutch. The Hussars as Hussars, Dragoons as Dragoons, etc. Same thing with the French. I went through the French units, and I kind of tried to figure it out. And then I realized that I was going to need more than one box set, right? I said, okay, I'm going to need more than one box set. This is just to do both sides of Quatra Bra. What you see here marked off is two starter boxes of British. And then over here on this side, you see 3 starter boxes of French. But then I was like, okay, so if I'm doing 3 starter boxes, right, I'm going to have a ton of guns, a ton of commanders, and a ton of cavalry that I'm not going to be able to use at Quatra Bra. I'm sure I'll be able to use them in Waterloo. That's no problem. But I just don't need those cavalry, right? I was thinking, why should I buy the cavalry? So then I thought, well, I should just buy battalion or brigade boxes instead of the starter boxes. Okay, so let me kind of break this down for you. I don't know, did I put it on this page? I did. Okay, so right here, I broke it down where these infantry boxes come with 3 sprues, right? 1 sprue is a commander, a gun, and a unit with Voltigears extra, right? So, for 1 box, getting 3 units, the starter set, just infantry now, you get 10 units. So that's just basically telling me I'm going to have 10 infantry sprues in the box. Not counting the cavalry or the building, you know, not counting the guns or any of that stuff. If I take the 10 sprues, that means I would have to buy 3 1/3 battalion or brigade boxes to balance it out, right? To say I'm getting as many infantry as I would if I bought a starter box. Well, a starter box is $145. The brigade boxes are 39, so we'll just call it 40 bucks. So for 3 of them, you're paying 120, right? Yeah, 120 for 3. That's not even the 3 1/3 that you need. That's only 9 sprues. So for 9 sprues, buying the battalion box, or brigade, I keep saying battalion, but they're brigade boxes, that's 120. For another $25, right, you're getting a heavy sprue, a light sprue, a heavy cav, light cav, in a building. That's the only difference, right? So that probably would be worth it, right? Getting that building, getting the extra heavy sprue, an extra light sprue, that might help. But I don't think... Okay, value per figure is definitely there, right? Because normally for 40 bucks you're getting 3 sprues of heavy, and for 40 bucks you're getting 3 sprues of light, and for 40 bucks you're getting a building, right? So you're getting 1/3 of that, so it equates to about 40 bucks of value in addition. So a starter set, you're getting the 120 value of the infantry plus another 40 value for all those extra pieces. So it comes out to about 160, right? Okay, but it only costs 145, so you're saving about 15 bucks. Now this is where I get into that's the cost analysis. But now where's the value? Do I need... So if I bought, instead of 1 starter box and some brigade boxes, if I bought 2 starter boxes, is there value there? Because I'm going to have extra horses, extra guns, extra commanders. I'm going to have so many extra that I'm not going to be using them. They're going to be in a box. So even though I bought them, were they really of value? Because they're not of value to me. So what I'm trying to say is, I think what I might do is get a starter or 2, and then definitely just get infantry brigade boxes after that, because they'd only be 40 bucks a piece, right? So you pay your 145, get your building, get all your cav, and then get the infantry afterwards. I'm going to have to do that. I think instead of getting 3 starters like I have there, I think I'm going to get 2 starters and then 3 battalion boxes. That'll actually save me money, and I won't have as many guns. I might even just go with 1 starter and like 6 infantry boxes, because you need more infantry than anything else. The cavalry, different scenarios will, throughout the campaign, we'll need different amounts of cavalry, but for Quatra Bra, I don't need it. And then, but once I get into the Battle of Hougoumont, there's actually more British cavalry there, and a bunch of different types of units. So, and the French don't really change that much. I mean, Kellerman's there, and Rial is still there. So that doesn't really change if I just do Hougoumont. But I'm not planning. Okay, here's kind of the catch when I get to Waterloo. I'm not planning on doing just Hougoumont anymore. I was planning with 28 millimeter on a small table, small playing area, shrinking Waterloo down into 3 battlefields, where now I think I can do a left and a right. Or I might be able to do the main battle as one, and then maybe the Prussians as its own little attack on the side. So I might be able to do both of the first and second corps of French and their cavalry supporting and stuff like that. And at that point, I would probably need to double up on what I'm talking about here. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, so maybe 4 starters and like, I don't know, 10 brigade boxes or something. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out, because a brigade getting me 3 units doesn't really fill out a brigade. Because just using this as an example, I'm just going to use Waterloo. 2 brigade boxes only gets me 1 brigade, right? And then another brigade box only gets me half of his 2nd brigade. Yeah, these brigades have like, so those brigade boxes are going to be more like regiment boxes. They're going to be half of a brigade. Yeah, now the cavalry, you get a unit of chasseurs, unit of lancers, unit of dragoons, unit of cuirassiers, and then you get 2 boxes, so that's going to get you 2 of your chasseurs, 2 of your lancers, 2 of your dragoons, 2 of your cuirassiers. So 2 boxes will get me enough cavalry, and it'll get me all of the marked infantry that I've got marked here. But I have it also marked as 3 starters. So that's another 10 units of infantry I've got marked up there that would need to be, I would need to get like 4 brigade boxes instead of that starter. So that's 160 instead of the 145. But a 160 will give me, it'll give me 12. So it'll give me 2 extra battalions. So I'll be able to do that one and that one with no problem. Right? And then I will save $15 on not having to deal with all this extra cavalry. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go with 2 starters and 4 brigades. We'll have to figure it out. And then kind of the same situation on the British side. And I'm proxying a lot of these British infantry for some of the Hanoverians and stuff that I can fill in. Now on this side, I went ahead and just went with 2 starters only, and I was still able to get all of this. And then I actually counted the actual figures that you get, like my light dragoons. I would have like 9 light dragoons on a sprue, and they give me 3 heavy sprues, so it actually comes out to 27 figures. They're expecting you to put 5 models on a stand, so they're counting you as getting 5 light dragoon stands. But I'm not doing it that way. I'm going to mount 4 cav per stand, I do believe. And if I go 4 cav per stand, that's a lot more bases. It's going to be a lot more light dragoons. So I don't know if I'm going to need a second starter. I might go, instead of getting the 2 starters, I might just get 1 starter and then some brigade boxes of infantry. Mainly because there's not a whole lot of cavalry on the British side during Quatra. Now I understand that's going to have to be expanded when I go into Waterloo. Okay, so that's that. Now, how did I base all that? Well, bam, right there. 145 for a French starter, right? And then 39 for like an infantry brigade. Infantry brigade, 39 bucks, right? That's where I got the prices from. And I don't know if you've seen this, but okay, this is my base count, like how many bases I need for the units that I'm doing. So like as an example, the 2nd Battalion of the 1st Foot Guards, it has 919 men, so I'm doing 6 bases. That would fall into my large category, which I'm counting that as 6 bases. A standard unit is 4 bases, a small unit is 2 bases, and a tiny or skirmishers is 1 base. The guns, I'm going to mount them as 2 bases, so basically 2 guns side by side with a limber. So each gun will have its own limber. Okay, now if you see an X under flag, an X means it comes in, that unit actually is printed on the flag sheet in the unit, in the box, right? So each of these units that have an X have flags in the box. Now the G is flags that I have over here from GMB. So in this case, I will have a flag from Warlord, and I'll also have a flag from GMB. Now, if you see an F down here, those Fs are flags that I got from Fighting 15, which I'm still waiting for those flags. Fighting 15 or 15 millimeter, it's a 15 millimeter flag company, but they give you, and they're much larger sheets, but they have whole brigades or whole divisions or whole, like a bunch of flags on one sheet. Like I was just looking at like Picton's division or whatever. It has like all of the battalions, and then it also has the Hanoverian flag. So not just the British, but it has the Hanoverians. I looked at the Dutch Belgians. It had Belgian and Nassau flags. So, and those flags, I think they're like $4, $5, $4 to $5, something like that. So that's the same cost as the GMB flags, but I think I'm getting about twice as many flags. So now what I have to do is look at them, compare them to my GMB flags, see if the paper material is comparable, because I love the GMB, the paper that they use in the GMB flags. I love them. The ink or the laser printing or whatever they're using in GMB, it doesn't run, it doesn't smear, it doesn't crack. It's great. If the Fighting 15 is the same quality of flag and I'm getting twice as many of them, then I'm going to have to let you guys know and really push it. Now up here you'll see this long list of flags. These are other flags that I get on the Warlord sheet that's not in use at Quatra Bra. I mean, it is in Waterloo, but they're just not used at Quatra Bra. And then a couple of these flags down here are from the Fighting 15, so we'll figure that out. Yeah, like these are GMB, but you don't get any of these flags in the Warlord, so you don't see an X. You don't see an F because I didn't order them. And I did the same thing with the French. I've got base count, like how many bases I need. You notice like this whole division, I had to use GMB. Okay, so you'll see this X here and this X there. Those are regimental flags that come with the starter set. The starter set does come with fanions. It does come with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Battalion, 4th Battalion, 4th Battalion, I think. But I don't like the look of those fanions. I'm going to be using GMB fanions mainly because of the writing. Yep, there you go. That's pretty much, and this is just a copy of the other stuff. Okay, so that's the cost analysis. That was my flag situation. I've got minifigs on order, still waiting for them. I actually ordered them before I ordered the Old Glory, but I got the Old Glory in a week ago. So, but then again, Old Glory comes from the United States, where the minifigs are actually coming from the UK. So I'm giving them a little extra time. Because I ordered them on, I think, the 7th. So we'll see about that. And then Fighting 15, I ordered about the same time that I ordered the GMB flags. And I already got the GMB flags. So, and they're both coming from the UK, my understanding. So I should be getting Fighting 15 any day now. I should be getting the minifigs any day now. When I get them in and I evaluate their size comparisons, I'll let you know. When I do the Tufts, I'll let you know if I like them or not. Other than that, I think I got you up to speed on my epic Waterloo project. And my thought process on the figures and the base thicknesses. If you guys got any questions or any suggestions for me, feel free to put it in the comments. I love to hear from you guys. And until the next update, remember, you can come check me out every Wednesday. I go live. I chit chat with my audience. I show you what projects I'm working on. And we talk about politics and sports and all kinds of things too. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, come by and check it out. And I'll see you in the next video.